day, good night, and welcome to the All Elite Review Show. I'm Kevin Laramee, joined by Jason Hagholm. As always, Jason, how you doing tonight?
I am doing quite well, Kevin. How are you?
I'm doing well, getting ready for a big weekend in the world of sports. Of course, my bread and butter is soccer, and it's the finals on Saturday, but on Sunday, on Saturday, it's the first pay-per-view of AEW since AEW Dynamite has launched. So after the big launch of AEW Dynamite, we're expecting a big pay-per-view, and tonight was the go-home show for Full Gear this Saturday.
Yep, big pay-per-view to see how everything's gone for this 1 month we've had of AEW Dynamite on TNT and TSN here in Canada. Thought they ended with, a typical way that they would end, with everyone that's in a big match on the pay-per-view getting involved. But, I think they've done a solid job making the matches that are on this pay-per-view feel important. And, it all depends now. Are people going to be interested in purchasing the pay-per-view on, over the air, or whether it's through Fight TV, what have you? Real interested to see what comes up this Saturday.
It's been a long time since the actual pay-per-view buys have been used as a metrics to define the popularity and the success of a wrestling show. Since the WWE Network has been in existence, it's been 5 years now, a bit more than that. So pay-per-view numbers have not been a metrics that was determined like the most important in a company. AEW, the way they run things, it is a very important number. And tonight was the go-home show, and at the end of the show, we can discuss to say if it actually raised our level of anticipation for the pay-per-view on Saturday. And by the way, we've talked about this. We're probably going to be doing this on Saturday night, but we'll talk about this tonight. Bojangles Coliseum, the old Charlotte Coliseum. Yeah, I recognize that stadium. Felt kind of good, Jason, but Bojangles, yeah, it's called the Charlotte Coliseum to me.
Well, maybe a better name than Bojangles, but you know what? Charlotte obviously has such a great history of professional wrestling, from the days of the Crockett's to, the NWA, WCW, and now with AEW running there. Obviously WWF/E had some good houses drawn there as well. But yes, definitely AEW making their debut in Charlotte, and this crowd, once again, a great crowd. But this to me felt like the best crowd that AEW's been in front of since the launch of Dynamite.
A homecoming for Cody Rhodes, and we'll get to his homecoming, to his big announcement. And I like the fact that 2 weeks ago it was teased that he was going to make his announcement, and we had the whole fight in the luxury box spilling out in the concourse area, which was fantastic, I have to say once again. And I love the fact that this announcement was delayed to happen in his hometown. We'll get there. But before the opening match tonight, the bastard himself, Pac, versus one half of the best friends, Trent Seven. And yes, this match was interesting. The final was a bit botched, or at least it had a feeling it was, and the crowd did not feel satisfied after the submission TKO, I guess, sleeper hold type of move from Pac.
Yeah, absolutely. This to me was a really good match, and I thought, we talked about last week how there was lack of singles matches on AEW, but it seems to be the trend right now after this tag team tournament's done is they'll start to show off with a solid singles match, and Pac being the big one in this match as well. Trent getting his first singles match in AEW, and I thought these two really had themselves a real good match, good back and forth competitive match. Went on a little longer than I thought it would, but yeah, the finish was weird where we saw Pac go up to the top rope, went up for the brutalizer, he used his top rope finish, the Black Arrow, and we thought we had the 3 count because they did cut to the crowd for crowd reactions, but it was just a 2. I don't know if Bryce Remsburg really messed up somewhere in this, but it definitely, as you said, felt like a huge botch. And then he went straight into the brutalizer, but really kind of took away from this finish. Like, he could have easily just used the Black Arrow to beat Trent. Like, Trent's someone that you could pin with that move, and you should be able to pin anyone with that move. But Trent in particular here, and it just came off a little bit weird for what was a really good match. And, I just don't know what happened there, but it took away from the match they had.
I agree totally with what you're saying, and also you remind me, and I don't know how to explain it another way, so I'll use this analogy. The threshold of how you're pinned and how a match finishes on regular TV is quite high, right? It takes the guys not only their first finisher, but oftentimes their second, before you put someone to the caliber of Trent Seven away, if you're Pac. What it's going to take when you're facing Hangman Page on Saturday. And that what scares me a little, to what level are they going to bring the violence on Saturday, just because it's something that is like almost a trend now in AEW. If we go later on in the match that I have on my notes here, the Shauna Rio match versus Hayter and Amy, it was like the level that it takes to get a pin is quite high. Same for the Cutler and Shawn Spears match. At one point, I was like, pin him now, but no. So it leaves me a bit worried for Saturday to hope that everyone comes out of it whole and not injured. Then, after this victory, of course, by Pac, we did have a few teas during the match itself that really got you excited, Jason. Orange Cassidy versus Pac, that could be fun in the near future.
Yeah, when they had their little standoff on the outside of the ring, that was fun. But of course, it's not a match involving the best friends without Orange Cassidy getting those kicks without much mustard on them. More the taps than the kicks. And then, how he does it, the couple kicks to the shin, and then builds himself up for sweet shin music, but Pac wasn't here for that. But no. I totally agree. It would be fun to see those two have a match, but I guess you can't get in that type of realm right now with Pac. He's still a serious character and about to have an important match and a rematch with his biggest rival to date so far in AEW heading into a pay-per-view. So maybe down the road we could see it, but I could definitely see those two having a fun match.
Yeah, and we'll get there at the end of the show when we look at the matches for the pay-per-view on Saturday. I have a feeling if Hangman Page comes out of this, the victory, or even Pac, maybe there'll be some title implications in the near future for the winner of that match. Now, Cody comes out, great entrance, great pop in North Carolina, homecoming of the boy born in Charlotte, North Carolina, a Dusty Road country, which means a Cody Road country. The American Nightmare making his debut with AEW in his hometown, coming to the ring to talk to the Schiavone himself, Tony Schiavone, in the ring. He mentioned off the start of his allocution, yes, this is the birthplace of Cody Rhodes. And then Cody takes the mic and takes us on a journey, a great journey, an emotional roller coaster that really got me close to being teared up, I have to say, Jason. Mentioning Cowboy Bill Watts, Dusty Rhodes, titans in this industry. All used to be an executive also. And he says, yeah, me too, and I have been criticized. So if I lose on Saturday, I will never, ever go after the AEW championship again.
Yeah, I don't know if we needed to have this stipulation. Like, it almost feels like Cody has to win the title, or I don't know. I mean, obviously him being the babyface where, somehow, some way they'll allow Cody to come back and get a title shot down the road. But other than the stipulation, which I don't know if we really needed it to for a match that was easily, I think, the one I was looking forward to the most on this show, and I feel it was the same way for others. But man, Cody Rhodes went out and cut such a promo that was so reminiscent of the days of the Crockett promotions, of his father, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, just out here basically going off the cuff, saying, how, Jericho called Cody, having a silver spoon in his mouth, and Cody was like, yeah, well, how about you? You were the son of a former NHL player in Ted Irvin. I feel like we have the same type of background growing up, and, called Chris Jericho a dick, and he's gonna beat Chris Jericho in front of his mother, his sister, his wife. It's for all that. He's gonna have him and the fan base eat the inner circle alive. Like, such a great promo. Like, Cody was getting worked up, even got emotional himself cutting this promo. So that's how you know this was the real deal. He was into everything that he was saying. Like, this to me is what pro wrestling has missed. Just someone bringing out raw, honest emotion, and the fans just eating it up. The fans had every word Cody said in the palm of their hands. They were eating it up. Cody was just a star out there, guiding the fans on this journey, as you mentioned. The only people that can cut promos like that are Rhodes's, and he just lives up to anything and everything that his father was able to do back in the the late 70s and throughout the 1980s.
I don't like to reminisce and to bring this up all the time, especially here on the All Elite Review Show. I don't like to bring the past and WWE and the whole bad narrative and creative. But Jesus fucking Christ, we can swear on this show, we're allowed to. Jason, this was Stardust. Can you imagine? Can you freaking imagine? Some people thought that this was the ceiling this guy could do, is be a character, to be a ripoff as his brother's character, and that's the best we could do with him. And then look at him now. Wow, what a journey he has taken us when you look back from 15 years ago, from undesirable to ungoddamn deniable. That's quite a journey.
Yeah, that was also a pretty good line in the promo. But yeah, I mean, I know we don't want to talk about WWE too much on this, but, as you said, like, they thought there was a certain level of where he could be. He tried out another character that never even really made air, just one vignette aired, kind of like, a high roller Playboy type with Brandy involved. But yes, he wanted to try something like this, felt he could be big league for WWE. They felt no, and just look at him prove all the doubters wrong. And once again, proves if you bet on yourself, sure, there's going to be those moments you question if it's going to work or not. But if you bet on yourself 9 times out of 10, good things happen. You see it here with Cody. You've seen it in pro sports with Fred Van Vliet of the Toronto Raptors, countless boxers, MMA fighters, athletes around the world. This just shows bet on yourself and good things will happen.
Absolutely. In life, you got to believe in yourself. And if you do so, good things will come your way. What comes next was not necessarily a good thing, because Dark Order was on my television once again. I'm not a fan of the Dark Order. I do not get it. Get off my TV. I have go away heat. Looking at Dark Order, I don't know about you, but for me, this was a missable part of this show. Versus Private Party. Of course, Private Party had some nice little new gear. Colors are black and gold heading into the pay-per-view. But for me is the fact that it took Private Party almost, 15 minutes to dispatch Dark Order. This went way too long and did not make Private Party look strong enough, in my mind, heading into the AEW World Tag Team Championship 3-way dance on Saturday. I was disappointed, Jason, by the lack of shine that the Private Party did get after this match.
I don't know. I disagree, because there was the stipulation where they needed a third team to now be in this tag team championship match, as we knew SCU was going to be there because they're the champions. We knew the Lucha Bros were going to be there because they were the runners-up in this tag team tournament. So we needed a third team to be the bronze medalists here. And I think you had to have a competitive back and forth style match. You needed to have both teams lay it all out, hit the big moves when they needed to, use their tandem offense to work out. And I think you needed to have that style of match, and I think they went with the right team in Private Party. This is a team that's really connected with the fans over the past few weeks. Especially they get the win on the opening match of the tag tournament over the Young Bucks. They have a killer match against the Lucha Bros as well. I think Private Party is the right team. I like the Dark Order. I think there's some things that really are going to work out for them in this company. Like there's still a lot of faith put in them and how deep this tag division is. But I think the thing that happened to the Dark Order was all the momentum that AEW's had building them up got put on hold while we waited for AEW Dynamite to debut at the beginning of October, when this was a team that was, doing quite well for themselves in July and August. And you have that 1 month layoff that can change everything in the world of wrestling. Wrestling's a week by week, day by day type of business, and you are on hold for 1 month. A lot of the fans lost interest, and they couldn't get on TV until episode 4 or 5 of AEW Dynamite right now. So I think they have to find a program that works for them. This is a solid team, but seeing them lose here, you wonder if they're just going to be the good hand type of a team instead of somewhere with longevity. I think there's some uniqueness they can do with this team, but they need to win the fans' trust back in some way.
Yeah, no, of course, and they need to win me back. That's what I'm waiting for, because right now I'm not sold on the Dark Order. For me, the Dark Order is a missed order, just like when you go to the fast food restaurant and they forget you damn freaking fries. That's how I feel about this order.
So what's your more issue here with the Dark Order? Because, I've seen them in person. I think this is a very well-run team, and, they put on great matches every time I see them. But just what do you think's missing for them now here in the mainstream in AEW?
I guess it's Evil Uno that, I don't know, for some reason, he rubs me the wrong way. I don't know, the mask itself, the darkness aspect. Ooh, we're scary. We got a couple of guys that are smaller than us, dressed in black, tight little shiny things with masks on their faces. I guess I just don't get it. For me, is I don't know. Come up with something, a little background. I don't have the background. I've been watching this since AEW Dynamite, so I'm a bit layman in the history of Dark Order. So I guess haven't been exposed to their background story yet.
Okay, fair enough. There's some teams that could use that, and that's, I guess, also why you have AEW Dark that is uploaded to YouTube every Tuesday. So there could be some more storytelling of why they have these minions and stuff. I could see that. Yeah, sure.
Like if I would see in the creation, I'm not saying pull off a Mankind JR interview to show me who the Dark Order is, but a little something maybe to get me caught up. But one thing I can get behind, and I do understand, is parody. And what was coming up next was one of the greatest parody I've seen in a long time. A spoof of their own video, frame for frame, almost shot for shot. It was amazing. I was laughing all the way through. When Soul Train Jones appeared on my television, Jason, I marked out, laughed out loud. My wife was wondering what was going on. Trying to tell her that there's meat sauce on my television. She doesn't understand. This was awesome.
This was fantastic, because when it started, you thought, are they going to try to make like Jericho a babyface with how this was done? And then it just was total comedy shtick at the highest level, whether it was, Sammy Guevara in it, Santana Ortiz, Patricia Bobsky.
Oh my God. She was the MVP.
Chris's aunt's friend from church. Fantastic. But of course,
I rewinded it 3 times, Jason, just to reread the chyrons to make sure I get all the info about Patricia Bobsky.
The highlight of the video was Soul Train Jones, a.k.a. Virgil, for those who don't know, came on and said that Chris Jericho's talents are like the breadsticks at the Olive Garden. Unlimited. Unbelievable. Line of the year. This was so good. And of course, every time they tried to get something from Jake Hager, it was just him mugging in front of the camera.
Just there, standing, looking deadpan right in the middle of the camera. Oh, when Sammy Guevara was like, yeah, Chris Jericho's a legend. He's the youngest AEW champion in history. I lost it there too.
That was good. And then, of course, Jericho said when he dropped his a little bit of the bubbly, like you could hear the audience in the background watching it just pop so much for this line.
In the bathtub, drinking bubbly.
Yeah, that was so good. Like, this was fantastic. And, like, a real surprise for this show. Like, I wasn't expecting to see this type of a video.
Oh, and the way they promoted
the show.
Sorry, I was going to say, the way Tony promoted it, he's like, this is a video from the Inner Circle. We have not seen it. We have no idea what it is about.
I didn't hear that. That's fantastic. Tony Schiavone.
Just to lay the grassroots work, right? Just to say, look, they made a video. They're responsible for it. We're not responsible for it. Jay Hager. Did you know that his nickname is The Big Hurt? Oh, that's awesome. The Big Hurt, Jake Hager, just there, not talking, not saying anything. And then you see Jericho sparring in the Gracie gym. Oh, Lord, that was beautiful.
It's this video for those who haven't seen it. If you would like to see it, the AEW on TNT account on Twitter tweeted out the whole video that you can definitely go out of your way and make sure you do see, because I don't think anyone was expecting this type of a video to come out for how this match has been laid out, to see this parody of Cody Rhodes' video that we talked about in loving ways a couple weeks ago on this show. But this to me was the best thing put out by AEW in its short run.
It was beautiful. Jericho, you even mentioned, like, yeah, Cody's going to have a lot on his mind and a lot of meetings, a production meeting. Me too. You know, it's not easy to find the best bubbly in Baltimore.
Fantastic. And of course, the sighting of Virgil was also pretty great.
I hope we see meat sauce again. Love to get me some meat sauce, and now again I'm hungry. Emi Sakura and Jamie Hayter versus Shana and Riho. I love this match. We did talk a little bit about the amount of tag team matches in AEW Dynamite recently. It is a lot. I have to say, it's a lot of tag team matches, and this did feel similar to the main event in a little bit. Not the end of the main event for sure, and all the shenanigans that happen after, but this did feel familiar, and at the end did feel familiar. You have singles superstar that are going to have their pay-per-view matches on Saturday. In this case, Riho versus Emi Sakura for the AEW Women's Championship. Riho, the protege of Emi Sakura. And of course, this played into the finish. Beautiful match, hardly work. Shana had a lot of shine in this one. Shana will be la championne before long. She will be great. And rarely we see a French superstar. Bravo, beau travail. I'm happy about it. And I love this match, Jason. The finish, the execution of the magistral cradle was beautiful.
It was. I did think for kind of a match where, you know, this women's division has players in it, but it isn't, I don't think, at the level where people in AEW or even the fans thought it would be at. Thought this match did go a bit long, but I mean, we talked about this before. Tag matches, way too many. But this one, I'll give the pass on, because your point was to have Emi Sakura pin Riho in this match to really solidify, like, hey, the challenger's pinned the champion here in a non-title type of match, as this one being a tag. You know, this could happen on Saturday night. I was fine with that. And as well, good for Shanna. Like, she just came out of the debut last week out of the blue, had a real good showing, now has been signed to AEW. And once again, you know, second time out, excellent showing in AEW, has a nice following behind her. Fans are getting into her. But yeah, this was all about, you know, Emi Sakura versus Riho, which should be a real good match for the AEW Women's Championship, though this division still feels like a lot of growing pains are going through it.
Yeah, it's the beginning of a division, right? And we are seeing it differently. What I do like is, and it's the same for the men too, it's not all the same shape and sizes. You have a little bit of everything for everyone. And I think that's important to have different athletes. And we have the Brandy Rhodes, and I went over it. I guess I didn't have a lot of notes on it, but the Brandy Rhodes and Awesome Kong type of promo video, hype video, who is she talking to? That's what I was trying to figure out, Jason. I was like, who is Brandy Rhodes talking to? She's talking to us? Is she talking to her opponents? Who's the opponent again? Is it Britt Baker? I was confused. I was trying to figure out, is it freaking blood in that glass? I don't know. That's what she wants us to think. I was confused a little bit, and I glanced over. I guess that's why, because I was so confused.
Well, there was, I think I even tweeted this out. There was more clarity on this video, basically that with Awesome Kong's body and Brandy's mind, like this women's division, they can easily take it over. And, you know, of course, she said she's not a bimbo and asked, you know, who the bullies are now, what have you. But still, some questions need to be answered. I guess we'll find out down the road with these. Nonetheless, was put here kind of randomly, but a much better video than last week where we kind of have a direction of what we think's going on with these two. Maybe they'll make an appearance at the pay-per-view in some way.
Yeah, that would make sense. I guess they're vignettes, so they're supposed to make us wonder and think. Brandon Cutler was already in the ring, and Chairman Sean Spears appeared on the stage with no music. Tully Blanchard appeared wearing a shirt that says "No More Garbage Wrestling." Sean Spears versus Brandon Cutler was an okay match, I guess. For me, a bit unforgettable. You had the run-in after the match when Sean Spears decided to take some liberties on Brandon Cutler. Joey Janela came in for the save, building up for a Joey Janela Sean Spears match. And I don't know if it's been announced, but I wouldn't be surprised if this match appears on the pre-show of the AEW Full Gear pay-per-view on Saturday.
I wouldn't be surprised at that, but I really hope not, because this is a program that's just getting started. You really don't want to have a one-on-one match, I don't think, right away. Maybe a match next week or something on AEW Dynamite or what have you. But this, to me, was a match where we're really putting the pieces back together on the Sean Spears character, where, you know, he came into AEW in that big program with Cody, loses that, and then comes out kind of really out of nowhere in that match with Jon Moxley on the second episode of Dynamite, and you're like, where is this character going? So now we have to hit the reset button a little bit, rebuild him. Had a match on AEW Dark just this past Tuesday where he got a win over Michael Nakazawa and now a win over Brandon Cutler. A simple squash match can do wonders in professional wrestling in 2019, still like it did in professional wrestling in 1989. I think Sean Spears is off on a much better course right now. And I am interested in this program with Joey Janela. Like, it seems like they're just making Sean Spears kind of be that old school vet kind of mind hitman to take out these quote unquote garbage wrestlers like Joey Janela.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe we will see more of that build up for this program of Sean Spears, the self-proclaimed chairman of AEW. And
still the best entrance in AEW.
Yeah. I guess I'm just thrown off by the lack of music. I guess that's the only thing I'm used to it. So I guess I have to get used to it.
Yeah.
And then there was a Kenny Omega Jon Moxley hype video, which was beautiful. I do like this angle, and I think it's going to be necessary. For some reason, Kenny Omega has not been a highlight for me in AEW so far since the beginning of Dynamite. He's been just a character, not a shining character. And there's going to be some building up before Kenny Omega can be considered a contender for me for the AEW Championship. He has not been portrayed that way so far in Dynamite. So there's going to be a big, important, for me, sequel to this. Not necessarily against Jon Moxley, but you'll need to continue and to build up Kenny Omega, because he needs to be one of your big superstars for sure. And he needs to be one of the faces of this company. And so far, I'm surprised by the lack of Kenny Omega as a superstar. But Jon Moxley, yeah, Jon Moxley is different than everybody else in this company. He feels different. He feels unhinged, but in a way that is portrayed and not just mentioned. And that's the big difference. I love myself some Jon Moxley right now, Jason.
I mean, Jon Moxley's going to be a big star here. Always was going to be a strong star in this company. when you have such a solid run as he had in WWE coming over, and a lot of buzz was around him now, with the, he's off the chains that WWE had strapped to him those past couple years, and, coming into AEW is going to be huge. Had a nice little summer run with his time in New Japan, and now he's back here in AEW. And they've built this matchup well, where they've done, that one angle to kick off Dynamite with the brain busters through the glass table. This is now the main event for the Full Gear pay-per-view. And, Moxley's going to be a big star, as I just said. But, Omega is, I think, still going to be a superstar. This is a program that I think really where the match comes out of and the result, what happens, will be a big tail into that. The thing for me is, I think Moxley and Jericho will get to have a program that they really want to have, that they couldn't have back in the World Wrestling Entertainment, or especially this wouldn't be a feud built over a plant being broken. This would be a feud over a championship.
We're not going to see Mitch. We're not going to see Mitch the Plant here.
No, we will not be seeing Mitch the Plant, but they will be planting the seeds in a solid program. If it is Moxley, potentially Jericho as the next challenger, and it's Omega Jericho, we've seen so much, but they still have great matches, and I think Omega is still a guy that is going to break through. His talent's too deniable. He cuts great promos as well. He cut in this hype package, basically saying he's happy. He basically was saying that, Moxley's out here upset that it's a lights out match. He's like, really, John, you thought you were going to chain wrestle me? He comes off, confident and a little bit cocky as well. So I think that's good for this character. You don't know how to take him, and I think we're still trying to figure out that video from last week, but maybe that's a direction with Omega. Nonetheless, Omega, I'm totally fine, and I think he'll be okay in this promotion. He's a big player in AEW.
Apparently, we shouldn't take too much of consideration for that video last week. It was made for his Halloween costume, basically, and the story that we did see in it, yes, it did involve a clue or an Easter egg to Kota Ibushi in New Japan, but it was all made in just for a little video like this, and there's probably not going to be anything coming out of it if you want to trust Matt Jackson, because he did come out earlier this week saying no, there's not going to be any New Japan and AEW partnership or working relationship right now. So
I don't believe that for a minute, but you got to say what you got to say right now.
Exactly. If you want to keep a surprise for a pay-per-view or for down the road, you never know. It could happen.
Well, we're only a few weeks away, really, when you think about it, for a brand new year. And
Tokyo Dome is
with Tokyo Dome being announced that Chris Jericho will wrestle Hiroshi Tanahashi, you'd have to think there's going to be some involvement with AEW and New Japan once 2020 it becomes to fruition.
Yeah, I seem to be inclined to think so too. Main event, Hangman Page and Kenny Omega versus Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho. Quick, interesting note, Chris Jericho is 5-0 in AEW, and I'm surprised by the amount of time we've seen Chris Jericho wrestle on television. It's probably going to be different in the near future, but they're hiding him in tag team matches, and that's great. You don't want to overexpose Le Champion on regular television. This was a match that had a purpose, and that purpose was to bring you to the end of the match and to bring you to Pac coming in and kicking in the balls. Hangman Page to MJF making a save on the ramp. That was great with a chair. And you had more Moxley coming down and the Moxley and Kenny Omega tease. And at the end, the Bucks saving everyone. And then you had the great dive off the top of the entrance tunnel. No, it was, of course, shenanigans at the end, all to set up the pay-per-view.
Yeah, pretty much just to set up the pay-per-view. We know that the Inner Circle members, Guevara, Jericho, win this match, but was totally just to set up the pay-per-view where you had Cody hit the ring and, Jericho and the Big Hurt Jake Hager hit the, try to run away. And then we saw MJF with the steel chair play the difference maker. And then it was Pride and Power in Santana and Ortiz and the Young Bucks, and then Kenny Omega and John Moxley stuff was interrupted, and then they got their revenge on the Santana and Ortiz, just old school kind of chaos type thing. Like, this one didn't feel as impactful as the first couple weeks of AEW with the wild chaos at the end, and that may hurt the pay-per-view. But I think one thing that won't hurt the pay-per-view and interest in getting that is Chris Jericho tomorrow night will be on the NBA on TNT stateside. And, of course, those games are simulcast throughout Canada on both TSN and or Sportsnet. So that's, I think, good for the promotion as well. And, you said Jericho, you're surprised how much matches we've seen him. Look, AEW knows Chris Jericho's really the biggest name to a lot of these casual fans that you're trying to draw in. You got to put him out there in main events each and every week. It's been a lot of tags, sure, but he did have that really fun world title match against Darby Allin a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, that's where we end the show off, and now we are set on our way to Baltimore at the Royal Farms Arena for AEW's Full Gear pay-per-view this Saturday night.
I guess the only thing that I'm a bit disappointed, it's maybe a strong word, but I'll use it, is the lack of mystery heading into Saturday. I would like something to happen that'll bring me to will somebody join and I'm not expecting on Saturday? Is there a new member of the Inner Circle coming? I know it might be early, and this storyline might come down the road where a new member of the Inner Circle, heck, I'm not going to say a spoiler of what I think might happen, but heck, someone who's been teased a few times of turning and not turning, maybe he's going to turn eventually and turn in a circle and join the Inner Circle. Who knows? He likes to wear scarves sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I was expecting a bit more of a tease, or maybe something happening that would leave us in a cliffhanger. I guess that's what I'm missing, Jason. The cliffhanger at the end of the Go Home show.
Yeah, there was no cliffhanger, but I think they're trusting in the talent here and what the talent's gonna do to make the product seem really relevant. And I'm fine with that. I think more the cliffhanger would come on the pay-per-view to maybe get you to watch the follow-up after their first pay-per-view since TV's been launched for the next week of Dynamite. So I think that's where we would maybe go with that. But I think all in all, when you look at this show, it's a really good wrestling show. But yeah, there does seem to be some momentum that's kind of dragged coming into this last week before the pay-per-view.
Yeah, yep, and the pay-per-view is this Saturday, and here is the lineup for the pay-per-view on Saturday. Let's take a look at the matches that we will be watching on Saturday, Jason. SCU, SoCal United, Frankie Kazarian, Scorpio Sky versus the Lucha Brothers, which is Pentagon, and Ray Phoenix versus the Private Party. This is going to be an interesting match on Saturday, probably the opener of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, definitely probably the opener. There are some other non-title singles matches, but when you think about it, you want to set the crowd off hot. That's the one I would say that could do it when you look at this card. Or maybe the other tag match on this card with the Young Bucks versus Santana and Ortiz, that could as well. But just the Young Bucks feel like they need a couple more matches down the line. But I'm excited for this. Lucha Bros and Private Party had themselves an excellent match in the tag tournament. SoCal Uncensored, I think, is a team that's really been exciting in AEW, especially the rise here of Scorpio Sky. The tag titles are on the line. 3 teams that can put on excellent matches. Some innovative spots should be in this match. So this, I think, will be really fun.
Should be a fun one. And again, Riho, the champion, versus Emi Sakura, the mentor of Riho, one of the teachers that Riho did have in her career when she started when she was 9 freaking years old. This singles match for the AEW World Championship in the women's division.
Yeah, and I think this will be really good. Obviously, I mean, prediction-wise, expecting Riho to retain. I mean, there's just something about her that the fans have really gotten behind. Yes, she's incredibly talented, but the fans just buy into her, whether it's, her size, her look, where she looks, as young as she is, and just puts on these high level quality matches. I expect this should be really fun, especially with how well these two know each other, as you mentioned, with Emi Sakura training Riho. Should be a real good match, and I think this one would probably come on earlier as well.
Another match in the books for Saturday: Bea Priestley versus Britt Baker. Britt Baker needs to be built up with an important victory. Of course, she had her homecoming in Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago. This one against Bea Priestley. Do you think this is going to be the blow-off match of this burgeoning feud, or is this more a match to just continue this feud heading into maybe the next quarter of the year?
I would assume this would end the feud that these two have been having, this weird kind of off again, on again kind of feud. Like, doesn't even really feel that much of a feud anymore. I mean, Britt Baker is obviously someone that this promotion is getting behind, and you would figure either she's back in a championship contender match, or maybe one Brandy and Awesome Kong somehow, some way are involved at the end of this match. And just looking right now, this one I believe will be the pre-show match on the card.
That would make a lot of sense. Now, going into the important match in this pay-per-view, I do believe we're going to see these ones in the following order: Adam Page, Hangman Page versus the Bastard Pack, followed by the Young Bucks and Santana Ortiz. Pride and Prejudice, Power and Pride, what is it? I don't know, but Adam Page and Pac will be probably in the middle of this pay-per-view, just probably after the women's match of the championship, if I was booking this pay-per-view.
Well, I think we know what we're getting here with Adam Page and Pac. These two had a really good match back at the not the All Out pay-per-view, excuse me, as Page was in the championship match, but these two have had a solid match on Dynamite, I believe, where Pac got his win back. These two do have a solid rivalry going on right now. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of it, because Pac's being built up as this solid heel character that only, plays by his rules and does what he wants, where there's Page, who, had a lot of fire in a babyface promo last week after a victory over Sammy Guevara. And, one of the best young prospects that is in professional wrestling right now is Adam Page. So I'm excited to see what we can get out of these two. How do they up the stakes from two matches already, one out in an independent promotion in England and the other one on AEW Dynamite. So there's a standard that these two know that they have to go above.
The Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson versus Santana and Ortiz, an important tag team match. I don't know if the winners of this match will get an opportunity at the titles down the road. They're not the number 1 or number 2 contenders, but they're obviously very important team in this division, maybe even more than the title. Maybe having the chance to face the Bucks is the actual tag team title in AEW, and Santana and Ortiz will be the first one to face the Bucks in the AEW Dynamite pay-per-view era.
Well, this will be, I think, a real important match. We've only seen Santana and Ortiz pretty much in just a squash match on AEW Dynamite. I mean, Santana and Ortiz were a big team to be signed, showed up and debuted at the AEW All Out pay-per-view at the end of August, coming over from Impact Wrestling, where they were, of course, LAX and one of the best teams in the business, and still are one of the best teams in the business. And to my knowledge, this is the first time the Young Bucks and Santana and Ortiz have had a match, so these two teams will put on some insane back and forth action, some insane double team moves. Santana and Ortiz are definitely not afraid to use their body to entertain the fans as well. So I think we're going to see ourselves one of the better tag matches of the year, and maybe one of the matches of the night.
The AEW Championship match, and there's a stipulation now: if Cody loses, he will not challenge for the AEW World Championship ever again. Chris Jericho, Le Champion, versus Cody not Rhodes?
Well, the match has obviously had the most prominence in being built up on AEW TV. I think we're all excited for it. They've done some really good builds, some good promos, especially Cody's promo on tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite that we already talked about. Really should entertain people into watching. I think people are excited to see these two have a match where they never touched in WWE. They're going to have a match that normally would be cut, really short. Time would be prohibiting them, but this is the main event. They're going to go at least, 30 to 45 minutes here. And I'm just excited to see what story they tell, what comes out of it. This is the one where there is some sort of intrigue in who's going to win this one and how do you get there, what happens, especially with this stipulation now. If Cody loses, he'll never challenge for the AEW Championship again. As I said before, maybe a little too soon to put this one on, but nonetheless, that's where we are right now, and we'll make everything in this this pay-per-view for the title, I should say, seem important, as we did mention that Moxley and Omega is the main event of this Full Gear pay-per-view.
Oftentimes in the history of wrestling, watching other promotions back in the day, when you had a non-sanctioned match, it just looked like a regular match. You had a referee, the referee had a patch or a t-shirt of the wrestling company, so you're like, it's unsanctioned, but why is there a WWE referee there? Jason, I hope that we see some interesting production here. I hope someone comes out after the Chris Jericho and Cody match, take off the ring skirts and put blank ones. Take out all the logos on the ramps around it. Make sure there's no logos left on the barricades. This is a non-sanctioned match. You should not see the AEW logo. I hope they find creative ways to make this non-sanctioned match feel like a non-sanctioned match and not an AEW pay-per-view match.
Well, I don't know if they'll do that. Obviously, you want to still have the branding and all that for this match, but I think these two will have John Moxley's going to lay his body out there. He's going to take something insane. They've been teasing week in and week out when these two have been face-to-face with each other that someone's getting hit with a barbed wire baseball bat and someone's getting hit with a barbed wire broom. So expect that to happen. I expect a big glass table spot at some point, as that was the first inkling of these two getting their feud reignited since the injury to Moxley. And for Omega as well, they've been establishing himself that he can go the route of these hardcore matches. Had a pretty solid hardcore match a couple weeks ago on AEW Dark against Joey Janela. So, I think the real question is, how will the fans be into this one after the title match? And, is that going to hurt this match? Are they going to be too blown up afterwards? Because I think these two definitely should be in a prominent position, but I was really expecting these two to be co-main. But now with that being in the main event and this, lights out stipulation, I expect this one to see some crazy stuff.
I expect to see crazy stuff too. John Moxley, Kenny Omega are going to leave, I think, a lot of blood in the ring or wherever this match takes place. It's going to go in the crowd. If there's one thing we've seen already twice with those two, is them battling around the crowds. So yeah, it's going to happen. There's going to be, like you say, furniture being broken, a bat and a broom wrapped in barbed wire, probably used. It will be a very interesting way to finish a pay-per-view, I believe.
Yeah, do you think that this match of John Moxley and Kenny Omega should be the main event of this pay-per-view?
No, but
yes, I agree with you.
The only reason why it's there is because I think they're going to push the fact that it's non-sanctioned. And I'm not saying the logo aspect joke that I made. I'm not saying this off the top of my head. I think that's the thinking they're going behind. If you're not going to sanction a match, okay, we're going to give you the environment. You can use our ring. You can use the setup here. But it's going to happen after our main event. It's going to happen after our show. And you finish your show with a title match. So after the title match, we'll take away the skirts, which I imagine is going to happen. I don't think they'll take off the barricade, to be quite fair. But I wouldn't be surprised if they put blank skirt and they just had one already underneath. They just switch them quickly. and you get yourself an unsanctioned match. So I'm not surprised, and I think that's why it's after, and that's why it's the main event. But technically, they said, no, the main event is the championship match. It's after because it's unsanctioned. I think that's their thinking behind it.
I think one of the things as well is there was all this uproar after the last AEW pay-per-view of All Out that the Cody Shawn Spears match should have been the main event for how into the card they were for that match, as opposed to Chris Jericho versus, a really good wrestler in Hangman Adam Page, but no one really knows him on that level. And of course, you didn't have TV to help build up Hangman Page. You had to rely on your YouTube series and things of that nature. But I don't know. I think we would have been okay if Moxley and Omega was co-main. And I think with all the TV, all the time you've built in, and the star power in that match of Cody and Jericho in an area that's a big, NWA area of Baltimore, Maryland. Like, I think this should be Jericho Omega for the AEW title should be the main event. I mean, I always feel title matches, championship matches should be the main event, no matter what. Maybe not all the time, I should say that, unless there's a certain match that's definitely got a lot more buzz. And I don't think Omega Moxley has that much more buzz.
No.
Maybe back in the summer, okay, but we're not at that point anymore. And I feel like Jericho and Cody Rhodes, has all the buzz, all the intrigue, and I think they're going to put on just a good old classic, excellent wrestling match.
So the only other reason that I can believe is AEW will probably want to leave their fans on a high note going home, which means babyface going over, which means Omega might win against Moxley. But that also means that Cody's not winning against Jericho, and didn't want the pay-per-view to finish with the Painmaker drinking some bubbly on television, which I guess is a great way to finish it. I don't get it. That's how I would finish my pay-per-view. The Painmaker, Chris Jericho himself, Le Champion, with a little bit of the bubbly.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, that one is the one match where I definitely think, you were just saying there wasn't much of an intrigue or hook. This is the one with the hook, especially with the stipulation. We're only a month in on TV, and then if you had Cody lose and he can't ever challenge for the title, I think that puts a lot of intrigue into this match. I mean, it's wrestling, never say never, but I think that does add a lot of the intrigue, and I just think this is going to be like I'm not going to say it could maybe, I think it has the potential, but like a Flair Dusty Rhodes type match, or, a Magnum TA Ric Flair style of a match. Like, Jericho's never been considered one of like a Flair type worker, but for this company right now, I mean, he is, and touching Cody and having a match for the first time, I think that's a huge sell, and I think that should definitely be saved for last.
I agree, but I don't think it's what we're going to get. I think it's...
No, it's not. I mean, they've already announced it's Omega Moxley.
Unless something happens, right? And we'll see. That could be the case, too. Maybe the unsanctioned match actually takes place before. And maybe it'll take place the entirety of the pay-per-view and they'll cut and go back to it. That could be an idea, too, but I don't think so. Or maybe we will get surprises. Who knows? We'll know more Saturday, Jason.
Yeah, we will. And as well, AEW did announce that after Dynamite, they were putting up on their YouTube channel the countdown to Full Gear. So after I'm done recording this with you, Kevin, I'm going to check that out to see how they've, get their last chance to get that, UFC countdown, that MMA level, big fight feel type of buzz for this show that maybe we didn't get totally tonight at the end of Dynamite, but that's a different element. And I think, from the production stuff we've seen, they've been top-notch with AEW.
Oh, yeah, the videos they made, just like the spoof of today's video, or the Cody one a few weeks ago. It's top level. It does have a countdown feel to it, and they actually made a countdown. I'll go watch that on YouTube also after this show. As always, you can follow Jason on social media at jhagholm1. You can follow myself at Kev Laramee, and follow this show at All Elite Review, live every Wednesday after All Elite Wrestling Dynamite on TNT. And also, after Saturday, we'll be here Saturday night after AEW Full Gear on our Twitter at All Elite Review. Make sure that if you like what we do, go to our Patreon page, Patreon.com/Sports Podcasting Network. A lot more will be coming your way. The $5 tier will become a VIP tier. And when you become a VIP, you'll have one more extra All Elite review show a week that I'll take care of, interviews mostly, and more sports coverage as a whole on the Sports Podcasting Network premium feed, available at patreon.com/Sports Podcasting Network. But as always, for Jason, I'm Kevin. Until next time, enjoy your wrestling.